there is no man that is immune to struggles in life. Whatever life struggle might be happening at the moment, I've seen that happen so many times now, and I just sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not just me. Every guy has baggage and a story and weight and life stuff that they're working through. So it's not always comfortable getting out of that comfort zone.
What's going on, guys? This is Brett Snodgrass with another episode of the Iron Deep podcast. Got a good bro on with me today, Mr. Patrick Grayson. What's going on, Patrick?
What's up, Brett?
What's up, man? How you doing? You staying clean? Staying off the drugs?
I'm good. I'm staying off most of the drugs. Staying
Just
off
say
the
no.
booze. Oh yeah.
No, it's awesome, man. Well, thanks for being on the podcast today. Guys, I'm going to dive into Patrick. So Patrick Grayson is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for several years. Patrick was at the very first Iron Deep event that we had in the Rocky Mountains of Utah. We had that at the end of 2022. He has also been a part of just our small group of guys and brothers and business owners and entrepreneurs and men of faith that are trying to grow in their faith. We're trying to grow in our families. We're trying to grow in our businesses. We call that the Iron Core. It's the core group of guys that we've been doing life together this year. And he's been part of that group of 12 guys. And it's just it's a blessing to have you on the show. Patrick, I've just seen so much growth in you. Over the past year. And we're really going to talk about that today, just the growth that Patrick has seen, not only physically, we're going to talk about that he has lost several LBs and has gotten in more, the better shape in his life. He has grown as a business leader and he's grown in his faith and emotionally. But Patrick, before we get into that, man, let's just share a little bit about Patrick. What's Pat all about?
A little bit about me. All right. Well, I will say I very much appreciate the opportunity to come on here and share some stuff that's been very near and dear to my heart, especially the last year, but really over the last few years. Who is Patrick? Let's see. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a third generation real estate investor with a long career in construction. So construction management degree from Purdue. My wife and I moved around the country for about 10 years after school for my job. So we got to live in Dallas for about 6 years. We got to live in Denver for a couple of years. That's where our two boys were born. So they are Colorado natives. We like to, for Christmas or whatever, we'll get them those little stickers, that say Colorado native. They like to tout that. I like to think,
say. Is that what they say? They're like, where are you from? They're like, we're from Colorado, but we live in Indiana.
That's right. Yeah, they love it. I think it's given them a certain calling to that Rocky Mountain air. Gives us a good reason to find, an excuse to get back there every year for some hiking or skiing or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's see. I have an amazing wife, Liz. She's just simply incredible. She's just a rock star mom. She's a massive support and encourager to me. She's an incredible, godly woman, and I thank God she's in my life every day. So that's a real high level. I don't do a ton of real estate these days. We joke around in the Iron Core group that I'm probably the busiest semi-retired guy you've ever met. That was a hat I put on proudly many months ago, was stepping into what I'm calling semi-retirement. So we still own property. We have a rental portfolio. I self-manage that. And we still dabble in a couple other things in real estate as well. So it's still very plugged in and very active in the investor community here in Indianapolis. We do some flips and, always looking for more rentals and things like that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of our jokes in our circle of the Iron Core group. And I want to talk about that a little bit because Patrick, really, I think the whole theme of this particular podcast is you've surrounded yourself with men, specifically men and driven men that want to be better fathers, better husbands, better leaders, businessmen, live a life authentically, grow in their faith, and you've been able, and I think you've been able to do that with not just Iron Core, but also other groups of men in your life. And I want to talk about this, just this pivot. So you, entrepreneur, third generation business owner, you were really entrenched in the construction business. You were, working with a lot of investors, flipping houses. You own an apartment building as well. You were flipping houses too, and you kind of had this vision, right? But you met with some other men in your life that I think speak some truth into your life. And there was kind of that pivotal moment, and you gave a presentation at one of our events this year about really wanting your business to serve your life instead of your life to serve your business. I want to talk about that a little bit, of just this pivot in your mind, and just some of the accountability around that other someone maybe spoke truth into your life, and just you started to think a little bit differently and reflect on, what do you really want in this. So
Yeah. Um, a lot of guys spoke a lot of truth into my life. So we'll have lots to talk about today, Brett. Um, I want to start, if you don't mind. I will answer your questions and we will dive in there. I want to start with a couple quick things. Um, so like one of the things I've learned in all of this is I am not an expert. Um, I love talking about it, and I love helping encourage other men specifically to dive into this stuff. But I don't have flashy statistics or, studies that I can cite, saying how great it is. All I have is my own experience, which hopefully, speaks for itself. And I really hope all the guys who listen to this could just, if you can just pull one or two things out of it, I think that's all we're trying to accomplish today. Um, and then one other thing I wanted to hit on, I have my little notes here to the side. Accountability, like the definition of it is very straightforward, right? It's just like being responsible for something. But I think when we actually start applying that to life, and getting involved with other men and seeing what just accountability really looks like, I think it actually takes on a little different form, in that, yes, there is like a surface level accountability. Brett, if you tell me you're going to do something today, I can always, follow back and help hold you accountable for that. Right. Like that's really
Mhm.
straightforward. What's been really interesting to learn over I'll say the last year, 18 months or so, is there's actually this like counter form of accountability. One of the things you'll hear me talk about probably a fair amount on our chat today is this workout group that I'm in. And similarly, there's a surface level accountability. If you tell someone you're going to be there, you better be there, and they can hold you accountable for that. But there's this inverse form of accountability where, there may not be a specific challenge against each other or anything like that, but sometimes just showing up, can help hold other people accountable without even realizing it. We see this a lot with our Iron Core group. As much as I love you guys and I love talking about stuff with you guys, there are days where I don't want to be there.
Mhm.
It's the last thing I want to do. I'm busy. It's another thing on the to-do list, whatever. But there's like a built-in structure of accountability. Like I know these guys are counting on me to be there, and so that kickback kind of takes over, and I'm like, I'm going to show up because they're counting on it. I'm a part of the group. And we make it as productive as possible. So
Mhm.
just a couple things I wanted to touch on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That's great. I
So
love what you
let's
said there, and I want to touch on this too as you answer this question about just pivot in your life. But I love just even the definition, the accountability. What does it mean? You are responsible for something. You're responsible for. I want to touch on that because I think it's gonna be important. I think topic to talk about. Anyways, go back into your pivotal story.
Yeah. So, I refer to these things as hinge moments, right? Times in your life. There's actually a book about it. Our church had a guest speaker many months ago. He had written a book about hinge moments in your life, and so I've started to steal that term. It just makes a lot of sense to me. So I don't know that there was like a specific day or conversation where this all happened, but maybe it was just God laying this on me, that in order for me to truly be the best version, to reach my potential as a leader in my family, in my community, in my business, whatever I'm a part of at the moment, I had to work on myself a lot first.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard to be a leader when you may not be walking the walk.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
that was a big revelation for me, in that it's fine and it's good to run big successful businesses. It's fine to be busy. All of that is good, but at the end of the day, what's really important is your family. And how on earth could you be a great leader to your family if you don't have your own self in order? So that has slowly taken form for me over the last 18-ish months, in just trying to figure out what that looks like. Um, and so it's caused me to get involved in a lot of these different groups. Stuff like Iron Core has been pivotal for that, like super impactful. Um, I mentioned the workout group I'm in, a workout group called F3. So if you're in Indianapolis, check it out, F3 Indianapolis. Um, that's just another form of getting involved, and exercising leadership skills, getting yourself right, and all that stuff. Let's see. We've spent a few years now going to dad camp, which has been great for me to grow as a father, and also just myself as a man. And then it's also been really cool to see how that impacts my kids, over the couple of years that we've been going. Um, let's see what else. So at church, yeah, getting more involved in church. Um, church is intended to be a place of community, where you grow relationships with other families, with other men, with other believers. So that's been a big part for us as a family unit in the last year, is getting actually plugged into small groups and different programs they have, whether it's for the kids. Um, Myself specifically, I've gotten more involved in different Bible studies. So I go to one that's it's every 2 weeks. It's called, we call it Dad Con, the Dad's Connection. So it's fathers with young kids,
Mhm.
and I jokingly refer to it as more of a support group than a Bible study.
Right.
But it's been so cool to get to know those guys over the past couple of years and grow with them. And they're kids that were 2 when I started, or 5 now. And but the really cool part, where the rubber meets the road on that, is when life starts to happen, right?
Mhm.
And you can share that with other men, whether they might have kids younger than you, and you can speak wisdom or experience into them, and then vice versa, it goes uphill too. When you might be struggling with something with one of your kids, and you can bring that to the group, and share what's going on, and other guys can speak wisdom into that as well. So um, and then I spend every Friday morning at church at a men's Bible study. Um, and it's an hour long, and we just slowly move through different books of the Bible. And that's been really, really cool for me. Um, I wasn't raised in a way where I was trained to, like, in an expository way, to go through the scripture and read it and study it and think about it and discuss it. So that's been super cool. We actually, I just remember, the first year that I was in it, the first full 12 months, we just went through Matthew for an
Mhm.
entire year. And I'm like, how are we still talking about this?
Right.
But it was like every week you show up and you walk out of there with like this aha moment.
Mm.
Um, One thing I'll share about that group that I think is kind of interesting. I was in a group when we lived in Denver, a men's group at church, and it was great. I loved it. And when we moved back to Indiana about 7-ish years ago, and we were plugged into the church, and I said, I need that group again. I need to find that group again, because I knew it was so good and healthy for me. So I started looking at all the different groups that the church has listed on their website, and I reached out to maybe two of the groups, and I said, this is gonna sound weird, but like, what's the average age of the men in the group?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was something that I had realized when I was in Denver, that I was the youngest one in the group.
Hmm.
And I feel like I was able to just pull on all the wisdom of the older men there. And it obviously impacted my life in a great way. So I was out to hunt down another group where I could be one of the young guys.
Mm.
Um, and it's just, one of the, I think, themes we're going to see flush out while we talk here today is there is no man that is immune to struggles in life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's something about, like a 35-year-old guy married with kids, hearing a 75-year-old guy talk about how he's still working on his relationship with his son, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever life struggle might be happening at the moment. And I like I've seen that happen so many times now, and I just sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
Every guy has
Mm-hmm.
baggage and a story and weight and life stuff
Mm-hmm.
that they're working through. So that's been a lot of my journey in the last year and a half or so, is finding these groups and getting plugged in and trying to get comfortable. It's not always comfortable getting out
Mm-hmm.
of that comfort
Yeah.
zone. But it's so good. It's so healthy to do.
Yeah. No, that's so good. That's so good. So the one of the reasons why I brought Patrick on this is because, again, he just described he's doing a lot, right? He's in a lot of different groups, really trying to grow in these certain areas of life. We've heard him, meeting with guys at church about being better fathers. With Dad Con, he goes to Dad Camp, which we had the Dad Camp guys, Jason Braun, on an Iron Deep episode several episodes ago. That's a huge blessing. So if you're able to go to a Dad Camp organization weekend with your child, that's just awesome. Let's talk about F3 a little bit. Patrick has joined a group called F3, which is a Christian men's fitness type of group that started on the East Coast, but now is in a lot of the major cities in the United States, and they have one in Indy. They have other major cities. So if you're not in Indiana, but check out F3, and it's just a great accountability group for men that want to wake up and work out and do some life types of things together. And you mentioned F3 a lot, and nothing sexy about it, right? We've had fitness guys coming on, helping guys get into shape on this podcast before, and it's crazy because health and fitness and nutrition, it's not a sexy thing, but so many of us are not making it a priority. And I think that, was there a moment in your life that you decided to make it a priority? Because you've lost literally over 40 pounds in the last 12 to 18 months. You ran a triathlon. You wake up, we joke around like you're kind of the fitness guy in the group now, or like, you just are you going to work out, Patrick? Like that's always our joke. Are you the one that's going to do that? So now you have this leadership, but this group has been so pivotal for you that you didn't do for years, right? And this has just been, so can you talk about this accountability of the group and this community, and yeah, just talk about the F3 and the results of that for you in your life.
Yeah. One of the other themes I think we're going to find threaded throughout today is, um, as you might be working on improving yourself or being a better leader in your community and family, is when it comes to kids. One of the things we say it all the time in our DadCon group is more is caught than taught. Right? Pretty common saying.
Hmm.
But that was a big part of it to me, was, am I actually living out a life that if my 10-year-old, eventually grew up into, and he was doing exactly what I was doing, would I be proud of him?
Mm.
Um, and so that was a big part of F3 was, it was an easy way to just jump in both feet and start actually living that little part of my life in a way that would make me proud. Um, the weight loss and stuff, like, that's great. I mean, I won't complain. Um, but it was just a natural byproduct of getting
Mm.
out every morning, moving your body. Your brain actually starts working better. Um, there's all kinds of, obviously, all kinds of benefits to exercising and getting healthy. Um, but the group itself, so I want to mention one thing. So it's not a Christian organization.
Mhm.
There are a lot of Christian men that are in it. Kind of a natural growth would be like, I'm a Christian man. I go to church. I have friends at church. I start telling guys about it from church. They start going. So there are a lot of Christian guys. But the mission of F3 is to really more so just engage men in their leadership in the community. Um, so there is a natural bent, I think, towards Christianity in the group, which is great. But there are some guys who, we had a guy. Um, we always close out the workout with some prayer requests and stuff, and then we call it the ball of man, and we just put our arms all around each other, and the leader prays us out for the morning. He closed us out with a Hebrew prayer because he's Jewish. So there's all kinds of men in that group, and there are also men who have no affiliation whatsoever, which has provided some really interesting conversations at some of the workouts. And it's okay if someone's not a Christian. Like, it's not
Mhm.
like I can only be around Christian men. There is a whole world that still exists out there. But it's really cool. Like, we do a lot of rucks in that group where you just wear a backpack and we'll do like a 2.5, 3 mile hike with that on. And so there's a lot of time to talk. And I've spent hours talking to a guy who, was a very strong Christian in his own words and has since, like, pulled back,
Hmm.
um, with a change of heart. So it's
Hmm.
provided an opportunity to just, like, have some of those conversations and learn about
Mhm.
what he's been through and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
The group itself is at least our North Indy group here is just made up of a bunch of guys that care,
Mm.
um, and they're willing to get vulnerable when time calls for it. They're willing to step up and challenge each other in a healthy way, whether it be on a personal level or how many push-ups can you do type thing.
Mhm.
Because we're still men, right? We still like to see who can do the most burpees in 3 minutes or whatever. um, but, like, as I was kind of reflecting back on stuff, things I wanted to talk about here today, like, a couple months ago, we did a ruck on a Sunday morning. It was an hour long, and the guy leading the group shows up. So in a ruck, you have 30 or 40 pounds in a backpack or like a weight vest on, and and so he shows up. We all have our weight vests on, and he brings this extra 50-pound sandbag,
Hmm.
and he goes,
That's
"It's a
a little
lot,
bit.
right?" Like, oh no,
Yeah.
how are we going to get this around? And he said this workout is called share the struggle.
Hmm.
And so for the next hour, we hiked around Carmel, and we each took turns carrying the 50-pound sandbag on our shoulder. And while you had the sandbag, you were to share something
Mm.
that you're struggling with.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just so cool to hear, this thing, I think, as men, or as humans, I guess, we look at certain people and we're like, that guy's got it together.
Mhm.
That guy's amazing. Like, he's flawless. involved in community. He's got an amazing business. He's perfect. Like
Mhm.
how can that even be? And
Mhm.
then, that guy gets the 50-pound sandbag and he just spills all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Just again, like, no, there is no man that's immune to it.
Mhm.
Um, so that was one. And then just recently, just this week, I'm I'm working through some stuff right now,
Mhm. Mhm.
some very personal stuff, and so we worked out in the morning. Like I said, we close out with prayer request praises, and then we pray it out, and so I just said, "Hey guys, the group's usually quiet, like
Mhm.
we're still guys. We like to bottle stuff in as much as we can."
Mhm.
And I just said, I'd appreciate some prayers. I'm working through some stuff, some family stuff, and just
Mhm.
prayers for myself, my wife, and my family. And that was like all I said. And
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
afterwards, so we kind of break. Sometimes some of the guys bring coffee or whatever. So they all the guys headed over to get some coffee. And and one of the guys who I barely know him. It was with a different group that I don't normally work out with. I see him, maybe a couple times a month. And he came over and he put his arm around me. He was like, "I don't know what it is, but you're not alone.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
whenever you want to talk or you're ready to talk, like, I'm happy to answer that phone call."
Mhm.
And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like how countercultural,
Mhm.
to just, this guy I barely know, but was willing to be vulnerable a little bit and bring me right in next to him, and just like there's just so much power in that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, that's good. That's good. I think two things that are really kind of coming to mind is what all of these groups can really bring to the table is two of the core values even with Iron Deep is humility, right? Humility is just doing things together and supporting each other, sharing the struggle together, putting other people before even yourself. Just probably the greatest virtue that there is, represented by Jesus Christ himself, having complete humility by a death on a cross. And then the other one is just vulnerability. And then, one of the core values of Iron Deep is radical honesty. And it's crazy how maybe you don't think about it, but all of these things bring vulnerability, not just sharing, right? And that's a form of vulnerability, which we do a lot in Iron Deep, but also just working out together. There's some sort of vulnerability there and humility when you're doing things to reach just that breaking point where you can't do anymore, or working out with guys from all different levels of fitness, right? When maybe some of them are crazy in shape, some of them are not in shape at all, and there's this that vulnerability piece. And I think so what I see again, dads with kids sharing your struggles as a father, working out together, even the Bible group, realizing that you don't have it all together and you don't have all the wisdom, and sitting at other people older than you his feet, just learning from them. I just think, those are a couple of things that I'm just kind of bringing out as you're talking. And then I also think, one of the things when you're sitting at older people's feet, and I have a gentleman that I sit with once a month, just for a couple of hours, and he's in his 60s, and his kids are grown, and love to just hear the wisdom of him. He was a CEO, business owner. Now he's a consultant. He kind of, for 20 some years was that living that life, and just learning from him. And I think it just helps you zoom out to the bigger picture. We had a guy speaking in our group about family this past weekend, and he talked about thinking long term, thinking bigger picture. Because sometimes, whether it's business or faith or family, like we're so in the day to day and in trenches, and we can't see the bigger picture. Sometimes we're just trying to get through today or this week, and to zoom out and to really think about what is our priority, what is important in life. And when you said it's not about losing weight, it's about, if my son was 40 years old and I was watching them live the life that I'm living, would I be proud of him? That's a bigger picture,
Yeah.
right? It's not just like, don't talk back to me. It's
Mhm.
like, caught, I don't know. I'm just like spitballing, but any thoughts as I'm talking through, humility, vulnerability, and the bigger picture of all that.
Yeah, I mean, we did this we did this exercise right at the last Iron Deep meetup, and where we wrote our own eulogy. And you know what never showed up as each man went through and read what they had written down, what they thought other people would say at their funeral. The things that never showed up in that were how many houses they flipped or the business that they built. It was all character of man. It was impact in the community. It was um, the relationships. So that man, if you ever want to wreck yourself, just go try to write your own eulogy one day, and you'll very quickly realize what's important. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was a cool exercise, but man,
Yeah.
it gave me some perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And those exercises are hard. And we even kind of did the exercise where, like, maybe there's a relationship that maybe was even a little bit strained. I gave mine from my son that we're having some difficulties. Just my relationship with him and trying to figure that out. He's 11, and um, so I did it from him. We're like, man, how am I going to show up not only for the people that are easy and are going to, respect me all the time and always say great things to me, but how am I also going to show up for someone who's in my life for a purpose, that God has put him in my life for a purpose, but he's not always going to say the greatest things to me and or do the things that I want him to do, but how am I still going to show up in his life? And that's difficult. That's a difficult exercise to kind of take through. But it's just that great reminder now for me, when I'm having those difficult moments, when I'm having those struggles, now I got a reference point where, like, how am I going to show up in
Yeah.
this moment today for this? So
Yeah. I mean,
good.
and to kind of maybe bring it back home to the realm of our discussion about accountability. What when you do die, uh, you get up to the pearly gates. Is God going to care? He's not going to care about how much money you made last year, or the number of deals you did last year, and none of that stuff.
Hmm.
He's going to care about how you carried out, making fishers of men. He's going to care about how you raised your kids and how you treated your wife, how you led your family. Um, so, the greater accountability in all of this. It's great to be in groups and Bible studies and work out and have coffee with men you trust and everything. All that is good stuff, but there's still an overarching um, accountability to God in all of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and I, in my mind, that's a big umbrella, because at the end of the day, there's only one person you got to answer to,
Yeah.
and it's Him.
Yeah.
Um, so then from there it boils down, and you see that flow out in how you run your business and how you treat your family and lead your family. Um,
Yeah.
but in my mind, that's the ultimate accountability.
Yeah. No, I love that. And we had a gentleman come to our last Iron Core group named Joshua Brown. He was on the podcast before. He lives in Tennessee, and he was a pastor for 20 plus years. And but now he actually runs a power washing business that he scaled to a million, several $1 million business. And we were listening to him, and he was very, very simple. And again, even in our faith, I think we complicate things that, so let's take family and faith. Let's put those two together. And so for me, like, we all want to raise godly children. We want them to love the Lord. We want them to be, kids and eventually adults with character, and to have, their heart be serving God, and to love him and love other people. And sometimes we just complicate that. Like, how am I going to get my kids to do that? How am I going to do this devotional? How am I going to teach them this or that, or all these different things? And what you mentioned, Patrick, was just more is caught than taught. And really the whole underlying theme was, if you want to raise godly kids, is just, you got to spend time with Jesus. You got to spend time with the Father and the Holy Spirit. That's really it. That's the only thing that really we have to do. That if you want to raise godly kids, you have to spend time with the Lord. That's it. That's it.
Period.
Because everything else is going to spill out from that, right?
That's
Everything else
right.
is going to spill from that. Seek
Yeah.
first the kingdom. And
They're gonna see everything you do and how you respond. They're gonna see, how you walk in the door every day, getting home from work. Uh, they're gonna see when you check your phone at dinner. They're gonna see all of these I'll say cultural challenges that we can recognize. Sometimes it's hard to recognize because
mhm,
it'll definitely creep in. Um,
mhm.
but like, how many? I'm sure I'm not alone in with little kids. I just remember driving in the car one day, and someone, like, pulled in front of me a little closer than comfortable, and I go, "What the heck?" And like the other days later, someone did the same thing, and my, like, 3-year old in the back goes, "What the heck?" And I was like,
Right.
where did you hear that? What spurred that on?"
Right.
And it was like, oh my gosh, I that's what I say every time.
Yeah.
It was just such a good reminder that, like, they are always watching.
Yeah.
They're soaking
That
it
is true.
all in.
That is true. I want to wrap up the show with this question. And I think something that's probably been burning in the ears of anyone listening to this particular show is that, so my daughter is 17. She's a senior. She's going to be 18 here in just a few months, a legal adult. And I told her the other day, I was like, man, can you believe you're getting ready? You'll be able to vote. And she's like, I don't care. Anyways,
She's like,
that's
I
just
want
a
no
17.
part of that.
Yeah. um, but anyways, we're talking about her career. We're talking about her future a little bit. And, college is on the table, not college is on the table, business, entrepreneurship is on the table. And, we're talking about, hey, what do you really want? What do you really want to do? And her comment was, I want to be rich. So, like, comment, I'm sure when I was 18 or 25, I said the same thing. Maybe not in those specific terms, but typically I use the term maybe financial freedom. She doesn't know that term yet, right? So for her, it's just, I want to be rich. I want a lot of money, right? At the end of the day. So so that's what she wants, represent, and I'm trying to, okay, how do I navigate this? She wants financial freedom. We're like, so me and my wife, we were talking at the dinner table last night with her, and she's present too. And our immediate response is, well, money's not everything, right? This is our immediate response. You want to make sure that you serve people and have a good character and serve the Lord. And we're trying to really downplay this desire for her, because she doesn't really know, but she wants financial freedom. And my comment was also to my wife, all right, I get it. This is what we're going to say. But, you know, financial freedom, or wealthy versus broke. And, yeah, we always say, does that not matter? Right. But and I told my wife, I was like, if we were completely broke and we were living in a 1 bedroom apartment with 4 kids in the inner city of Fort Wayne, like, would you rather have that or rather have financial freedom? Right. And so, obviously we can say that, but we're kind of on this financial freedom realm. And I love financial freedom, right? And I want to go down this direction. So I get my daughter's heart, what that is. So I guess I want to ask you this question too. So right now you're in so many groups, accountability groups, and even when you rattle off all those groups, a lot of guys are probably thinking, man, like, how do you have time to do that? And is it because you're semi-retired? Possibly, right? I mean, we joke around that. Is that because you have certain time in your life? Maybe you've built that up. But a lot of the guys maybe don't have that luxury that they still have to, put in the hours, because even the groups that you mentioned, I mean, I probably counted, I don't even know what it is, 12 hours a week. I
Right.
don't know, you know. So talk about that. Maybe some other guys that really desire that accountability. Maybe they can't join, 5 or 6 groups. And do you have to be in your position to do that, or can you still have this financial freedom mark too? So, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to spitball it
Yeah,
around, but any feedback on that?
100%. So, um, first of all, I consider myself a slow learner. So sometimes it takes me a minute, and I just, when people go like, "Oh, you're busy with a lot of stuff, a lot of groups," and I'm like, "Man, I need all the help I can get." I like that's the mode I'm in right now. So that I need all the help I can get, coupled right up with I'm a slow learner. Like I'm just trying to drink from the fire hose, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, I actually had a friend yesterday. Um, it's funny you asked this question. So yesterday I'm on the phone with him. He called me with some real estate questions and stuff. He's also in F3 with me. He's a good friend. He's actually the one that got me into it.
Mm,
Um, he found the group and everything and told me about it. But I go, hey man, I haven't seen you in a minute. It's he travels for work quite a bit and stuff, and he goes, yeah, I just that alarm clock goes off, and um, the bed is really warm.
it is.
It was 31 degrees outside this morning while we were outside running around doing push-ups and burpees and stuff. But
Hmm.
um, he goes, yeah, I really I need to get back into it. I enjoyed seeing a lot of the results from when I was doing it more, and I want to get back. And I said, you know what that is, right? Like, what's your real issue here is it's all just a matter of priorities.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, we all get the same 24 hours. We all, get to decide how to spend that time. Um, so if getting more sleep is what you need, then you recognize that and you prioritize it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, because sleep
Um,
is important. I mean, it's a
it
huge
it
importance to
is
health, right? So if you're not going to bed till midnight and you're trying to get up at 5, that's not going to work either,
exactly.
right?
Um, so I said, just you just got to figure out your priorities, and that's been another big like aha moment for me as we talk about the eulogy stuff and trying to improve myself before I can uh, reach more of my potential as a leader in my family is um, so the question is what is my priority.
Mm,
And if you go to Facebook or Instagram or flip the news on or anything, you will be told what your priorities are,
mhm,
right? Culture, society will tell you that you need to go grind and wake up an hour earlier so you can send more emails and buy more houses, do all that stuff. You must scale your business. Um, and so it's taken a lot of work, but I've shifted a lot of my priority, a lot of my focus away from trying to do bigger and better and more things to focusing on what's actually important.
mm,
Um, so, when the workouts are at 5:30 in the morning, and a lot of people aren't morning people.
right,
I feel
right.
lucky that I am, and so it's
Mhm,
not a big deal for me to wake up at 5 o'clock to go work out. Um, but my response is usually something similar, like it's fine. Like you do not have to come to the F3 workout. Um, but my question in return is where are your priorities?
mm, mm,
And there's, there it does sound like a lot. And even when I prepping for our talk today, I'm like listing these things out. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of stuff to do.
Mhm.
Um, but when it's something you want to work on, that you need to work on, it takes it out of the realm of like a burden, and it actually moves it over to like, well, this is the stepping stone, right? That's going to get me from here to where I'm trying to go. Just like in business, we're both in real estate, and before you bought your first deal ever, you probably, read some books and listened to, I don't know if podcasts existed when you bought your first deal. Uh, but
Well,
whatever.
audiobooks, audio
Yeah.
CDs,
Yeah.
right?
Tapes in the car,
Tapes, yeah.
8 track.
It's so
But
funny that just to speak on to that. So after that conversation with my daughter last night, because she wants to learn some things about building financial freedom, right? And so I try to take myself back. I'm like, all right, what did I learn back, even back in my day? So I sent her over an Audible book, and I think I listened to this. It was called The Millionaire Next Door, and I think I listened to it when I was 25 or 26, and it just didn't change my life, but it completely changed my whole perspective on financial freedom. So I sent her that because, again, what do they say? You're going to be the average of the books you listen to or the people that you hang around with. So, like, if you want to be financially free, you need to hang out with older people that are doing that, and then read some cool books that
yeah,
speak into that. Anyways, that just brought me back to that. So,
absolutely. And I'll steal that actually, and relate it to my story a little bit here, in that a lot of the work that I've you know come across, or recognize as something I need to work on, is just like making God the center of anything and everything I'm working on.
mm,
Uh, because in that similar vein, it's really easy to just hop in the truck, and if I have an hour drive across town, I'll throw on a business podcast,
hmm
or I'll listen to an audiobook about how to lead your team, or real estate, whatever it might be. And I have to consciously sometimes think like, all right, like that's taking up a lot of my headspace, right?
hmm
An hour at a time in the car or whatever. So I have to, sometimes be intentional about turning off the podcasts that I like to listen to. And I mean, there's been times where I'll just use the Bible app, and I'm, because it'll read it to you out loud, and I'll just like play that and like listen to different stories of the Bible. Or, I mean, there's so many Bible, podcasts out there. I really like I don't know if you've listened to the Bema podcast at all. That's really
I have,
fascinating.
yeah. I know that is fascinating. Yeah, really taking
I
you
mean,
through the Bible.
Dad Camp has one.
hmm
Iron Deep obviously has one, but like
hmm
these other things where our natural default is to like dive into business and stuff,
hmm
but replacing that, because I think especially in those times where we're looking for some guidance, I think
hmm
we tend to go where we're comfortable, and I'm
hmm
really comfortable talking about business,
hmm
or real estate or whatever, and you gotta push yourself out of that comfort zone, and start doing some other things, and it'll just slowly start changing your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that. And I think it's going to wrap up the show to there. And I think really the thing, you talked about priorities, and this is something that you talk about guys speaking truth into your life. So I was with this gentleman, that the 60 plus year old that I was talking about the other day, and we were talking about this priorities. And he wrote, 8 things on the board: business, family, marriage, or kids, marriage, hobbies, health, all these different things, and start to list out my priorities from greatest priority, least priority. And I was really struggling with my kids, so we're going through some tough stuff with the kids, and I'm just kind of in this survival type of mode as my kids and my family and some of the chaos going on inside of our home. And he said, that if you spent as much energy on as you do as your business or Iron Deep or podcast or whatever, and let's say you put as much energy into your kids in the four walls of your home, and you put thought and energy into that and prayer into that, that your home, I think, would be a lot better than it is right now. And he said, this is the truth part. It's because it's not a priority to you. And like truth
Like dagger.
hurts. It can hurt, but it's honest.
Yeah.
And I think that that's sometimes, that accountability piece. I need to hear those things, probably reminded time and time again, because my default is to stack the calendar with things that I'm comfortable with, um, and not the things that make me uncomfortable and make me feel it's harder, right? And we our default is to not go do the hard things. And so, anyways, that's just something that you pointed
Yeah,
out. So thank you.
absolutely. It reminds me of the saying, that you could really easily tell what's important to someone by how they spend their time and how they spend their money.
Mm,
And if someone were to just crack, your finances open or look at your calendar, what would they say is
hmm.
your priority?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's kind of a good reality check.
yeah.
So
No, that's
um, I,
good. That's good.
I want to round us out and just encourage anybody that's listening. Um, I know it sounds like a lot of I do a lot of stuff and in all these groups and stuff. It's not that much to me.
Hmm.
It's a level that I'm comfortable with, but the encouragement is just don't overcomplicate it.
Hmm.
It's really not complicated. Keep it simple. Just find a group and start going once a week or whatever. Like you don't have to go to the workout group 7 days a week. You can go once. Like that's
Hmm.
0 to 1, right?
Hmm.
Is better than just staying at 0.
Hmm.
And then God will be at work and He can kick doors open and introduce you to people and all this stuff. It reminds me of like the simplest thing I did probably 2 years ago with one of the guys in our Bible study. Um, and he grabbed me after one of the meetings. I didn't know him that well, but we kind of clicked. And he goes, "Hey, do you want to do this thing with me where just you and me, and every day for the next 30 days do your own Bible study, and we'll just text each other like what our takeaway was for the day?"
Hmm. Hmm.
I was like, "Whatever, sure." And like, what's the worst thing someone can say? No. Like,
Hmm.
what do you do? Right? Not a big deal.
Right.
But I mean, guys aren't going to say no, right? Guys like challenges. They like
Hmm.
to do stuff, and especially with each other. And I mean, that one little thing, that 30-day period, has stuck with me for
Hmm.
these years now. And it was just such a simple little thing.
Hmm.
So just
Yeah.
don't overcomplicate it. Just tear off one little piece and work on it, and
Yeah.
grow into it to wherever you're comfortable.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. And I think that, and we'll wrap it up with this, but one of the things we talk about in Iron Core is that you be the one to pursue. And I think so many times we, as men, maybe we want to be invited, but none of us invite. So that was good that someone invited you, and you could have said no, and people are going to say no. It's just not a priority in their life, and that's okay. They're going to be like, "Hey, I'm crazy busy, can't do that." And that's okay, but maybe this month send out an invitation for something, right? I think men are yearning for that, and hardly ever do we receive an invitation. So it could be a Bible study, it could be a workout thing, it could be, I don't know, business thing, accountability thing. So, anyways, hopefully this encouraged you guys today that we all need accountability in our life. We all need groups, and just start to radically honestly ask yourself, where is there an area in your life that you're like surviving in, that that you need to shift your priorities? And maybe there's a group out there. It could be your health, it could be your family, it could be, and some of us are financially surviving right now, and you need some more of that business leadership too. So or in your faith, obviously, which is the most important, overarching, to be with the Father. So thank you, Patrick, for being on the podcast today. I appreciate you, brother. Make sure you guys go check out our website at irondeep.com. We're going to be talking about some events coming into next year. We got some main events that we're going to be putting on the website. And make sure you guys check that out. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to me just from the website as well. So this is a wrap. Thanks, Patrick. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.